You.
I'm in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
You are live,
What?
guys. You are live.
Huh?
Oh, they say
You
we
are
are live.
Oh,
We are live.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of What Catch Your Heart. What Catch Your Heart is a community forum where we come and discuss issues that are burning in us deeply. We have folks from the community that will come and discuss issues that are burning issues. And with me today are my co-hosts, Mr. George Carter Tule, an unabashed CPPA, uh, and I am a pious Sidician, and on my far right and your far left is Ali Kumara. We are going to go around the table and introduce ourselves, and then we're going to go to the topic. Mr. Tule, how are you doing today in our beautiful country of Canada?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. The weather is good. Actually, I had to cancel an outing with the family just to be here because, like I told you last time, we've been cooped up inside for over a year, and now that they've relaxed a lot of the restrictions, people want to get outside and get to sunlight because the sun will soon be gone. In 8 weeks, in 8 weeks you'll be looking for for sunlight to shine on you.
Thank you
So
very much.
yeah, so
Excellent.
it's nice being here today.
Yeah, man. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the family. Like you say, within the next 4 to 6 weeks, you guys gonna be happy that day again. So it's usual for Canadians. Mr. Kamara, where are you calling from? And introduce yourself to our beautiful panelists and our folks in cyberspace.
Well, thank you for first of all inviting me. I'm honored to be here. I religiously watch you and Tule go back and forth on this our politics. Is that what you call it? I don't know what you call it, but
Uh,
On point.
yeah,
on
I
point.
watched both. Okay, yeah. I watch both of you a lot, and I enjoy both of you. I think sometimes my brother over there tend to be some sort of a fundamentalist when it comes to CDC. But anyway, I'm Aliu Kamara, and in the Maryland area, and I'm here to contribute my quota. I'm honored to be with these two guys, very abreast guys who understand the issue, and I am the underdog here, and I set the position.
Oh, listen, the folks in the old school would say, watch out when he call himself underdog, he come with a heavy punch. So the show here is about what catch your heart, or in the real parlor, we say what catches your heart. Meaning, we have our burning political issues that we need to address, but we do not want to address them in the formal sense where you got statistics, you are so academic. We want to relax and discuss those issues that regular folks can actually relate to and join and actually tell them what catch their heart. So, Mr. Tule, I would like to begin with you. What is it actually that is burning? I mean, maybe the past month or the past week, something that you actually don't want to talk about, but you didn't have the political space or the media space to discuss that. Actually, go ahead and tell us what is actually burning, your burning desire, something that catch your heart, as Liberian man says.
Um, for me, what is very, very, very burning, in my heart, my soul, everything. What burns me right now is the prognosis for Liberia. When you look at Liberia and you sit down and you want to discuss things about Liberia, it's like, do you see light at the end of the tunnel? And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, it's like when you play out the different scenarios, it's like you come to a conclusion that it's bleak. The future is bleak. The future is bleak. I was listening to PLO today, and he made some very salient points. And he talked about he drew an analogy about voters, right? And having, I think, voting and thinking that something would be a Mercedes Benz or something would perform at optimum, but when you give that thing, when you take it and take it home, it doesn't perform at that level. I still need to listen to it again. But he drew a funny analogy, and I was just looking, and I've always said to you that our people deserve the people they elect. All right, a nation deserves those they elect, and that is our conundrum. Okay, Mr. Gaiman, look at right now in Liberia. Look at the amount of needs that we have. The president just drove the last time past a huge pile of garbage. It's not even the removal of that garbage that matters, but are they going to put in place a system that will ensure that the garbage doesn't pile up to become a mountain and pose health hazards to the people? Now, when you ask me, what's on my mind? Why did these people, our people that we elected from different political parties, United Party, CDC, Liberty Party?
I got a question, Tule. Are you outlining the things that are on your heart, or you already deliberating?
No. I'm just outlining something.
Okay, just wanted to know.
I'm listing it. Yeah, because I gotta give background. Aliyu,
Yeah.
why is it that these people that we elected, our people in the villages, in the towns, and the cities, elected these people and sent them to the National Assembly, the National Parliament? And why is it that we, the people, are just lackadaisical when it comes to putting pressure on them and demanding probity and demanding accountability? Why would these people take $30,000 each in the midst of COVID when the needs abound? When will it stop? When will we, the people, for me, what catch my heart is the attitude of the typical Liberian man. He doesn't really care about what he goes to vote, and then he turns his back for 6 years or 9 years and comes back and casts his votes again. So what catch my heart, that is it. The attitude of the typical Liberian man, that he has no desire to demand change, to demand a new day for Liberia. And until that can happen, I don't know. So that's why on my heart now. Oh, Jerome, your microphone is muted.
Mr. Kamara, you look like an intellectual or someone who will actually lecture us, give us some insight. You knew. So tell me, what catches your heart, or what catches your heart? What is your burning desire, something that you actually wanted to discuss, but you didn't have the space? Now, this is it. Tell me what actually catches your heart. What catches your heart, my friend?
Well, I have three issues, and two of them happens to be the paramount. The first one happens to be, first of all, there is a missing vessel. I believe you guys heard about it, that try to navigate the waters between Monrovia and Hartford, Maryland. That vessel was grounded by the Liberian Maritime Authority. They said that vessel did not meet the requirement, all of the safety requirements, so it should not have sailed. But I don't know what happened. Nobody wants to take the blame. That vessel was still able to sail with 9 crew members and 9 other members of the West African Examination Council. We're receiving reports that 11 of those people who are reported missing have been released. They've been found alive, and so we still have several more to go as we speak. That such is still ongoing. So let us keep them in prayer. It's on my mind, and there's something that we really need to talk about that in terms of regulation and how strong the government is in actually exercising those authorities. The next thing on my mind is Liberia's reliance on donations from other countries and organizations in order for it to operate. That is troubling. But the third thing on my mind is I want to give a special shout out and kudos to the CDC-led administration for the facelift that they're giving the city. It's long overdue. I know for political reasons, many people will complain. People must complain. People must get angry. Politicians will use some of, the what should I say? How can I be respectful? Some of the citizens who are not very much up there intellectually to turn against George Weah for the cleaning exercise that is going on in the city. But it is needed. Liberia, Monrovia looks like a deep, large village, dirty and filthy. And it only makes sense for the government to clean up the city. So for now, I hold and will be willing to go further and elaborate on these issues.
Thank you very much. And let me tell you what catches my heart, or in Liberian parlance, what catches your heart. As you all know, I hosted Dr. Lumumba for a week, and he will be here for the rest of the month. And he's doing his nationwide tour. He understands. I laid before him the proper agenda and told him what is it that it will take. And one of the things he told me was, Mr. Gilman, I want to let you know that President Weah is not the president, is not only the president for Liberia. He says, I am a fan of President George Weah. He is Liberia's best, Africa's best, Europe's best, world's best. He says, so I expect President Weah to govern not only as a Liberian, because he is not a Liberian president per se. He needs to take the Liberian experience on a global stage with vigor. Then he turns around and tells me, he says, Jerome, if you ever had a chance to tell someone that you love and care for, he said we need to light the fire underneath or beneath everyone that is in power that we love and care. Please do not allow complacency to set in. Let them wake up from their slumber and take Africa to where it needs to be. He said he needs to have a little bit of what we consider Pan-Africanism, speaking for the people, talking with the people, speaking with fire, talking about those issues that affect them. He said, those of you who have partisan affiliation, if you allow your president to become complacent and you become praise singer, and this goes for everybody, he says, opposition and those that are supporting the government. He said, our position and our responsibility is to light the fire under these folks so they don't get to be complacent. And he made an example. He says, a friend, someone that I have a lot of respect for, the president of Ghana, he said, after I have sung all of these great things about him, turn around and want to put his wife and his whole entire family then on the payroll. He said that was disappointing. He said somebody didn't light the fire on a Kofu that he was going to put his wife on the payroll of the poor. So that catches my heart. And I told him, I said, Doc, we are not going to relent like my brother is doing here. He's from the opposition. He's from CPP. But today, he is not a CPPian. He is actually here to talk about issues that are affecting our folks. When will our folks rise up against those that are elected? Not the opposition, not anybody. We talk about those that you elected in your neighborhood. But then democracy also calls for, we elect people who sound and look like us. So if our government is a crook, the government was not just born to be your crook. Your crook came from your village and he made it to the White House or made it to Parliament. You pick somebody who sounds and look and talk like you. Remember, we have a democracy. We have a representative democracy. That's what he told me. So, Mr. Tula, you are right. What catches your heart is real, my brother. Let me touch on that a little bit, and this comes to the corruption piece. If the government of Liberia are listening to the interview with the maritime director there and the group, if this vessel was denied, it was not seaworthy, and was arrested, how did that vessel make it to sea? Somebody, and this brings me back to 2 weeks ago at the airport, or 2 weeks, maybe a month, that an Indian family came from India with an entire entourage, his whole family. I stand to be corrected. But he bribed himself through the airport, through our immigration system, to the detriment of our people. This is not a partisan issue here. We are talking about a Liberian issue. Something is wrong with us, not government. I'm saying us because when in our civic classes, we said the government begins with the family at home. Something is intrinsically wrong with us. Mr. Kamara, please. Charlie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, when you said that, I was listening when you said that Dr. PLO Lumumba talked about President Kufuor trying to put his wife on the payroll. It reminded me of a statement that you made that George Weah is a universal person, which we understand. So therefore, people try to emulate George Weah, right? So we know that George Weah introduced a portion of his wife getting a budget. So John Kufuor is trying to learn from George Weah as well, you know. So, but you know, there's nothing that Dr. Lumumba said about Liberia that we really don't already know. We know that the problem in Liberia has been because of political will, the lack of political will. And George Weah, your candidate, your president, has absolutely no political will to implement anything. Recently, I don't know where he really got the face and the bonus from to try to take away some of those dilapidated and makeshift structures that are making the city look so terrible and so bad. He had a water and sewer corporation managing director for over 3 years who had brought nothing to the table, had never changed or not improved anything. He kept the guy there all of this time, going close by election, and then now he's starting to make political decisions. This is just to tell us that George Weah is not who the Liberian people really believe he is. He's a good guy. He's somebody that we can look up to, be proud of. But as far as presidency, I think that was a mistake. And I think even trying to re-elect George Weah, or you, Mr. Gilman, trying to force George Weah down the throat of the Liberian people, that would be disservice to Liberian people, and that would be very unpatriotic on your part. Using this opportunity, now that I'm looking at you face to face, I will admonish you to withdraw your support from George Weah come 2023, because then he goes back to his old ways after he should have claimed the presidency. But talking about that vessel, look, you made a point. For the vessel to have left Freeport of Monrovia, somebody at the Freeport of Monrovia had to shake hands with the captain. And by the way, the vessel is missing, but the captain was found. Okay, he was rescued. And he's supposed to be the last person to be rescued on that vessel. Where are the other people? Why is the captain rescued before the other people, the white employees that are on the sloop? A lot of them are missing still yet. So how did the captain get out and the other people are still in the vessel? Another thing about that stuff that actually triggers some fear in me is they depend on a private company, a corporation, the Metal Steel, from all the way there in Yekepa, to come down around the Buchanan area, the Grand Bassa Sea area, to help them find a missing boat. The Coast Guard cannot do it by itself. It depends on private entity. I mean, where are we heading to? Do you really have military? Where are we? I'm scared. I'm concerned. Could the Coast Guard do this by themselves? And Mr. Gilman, given that you are an insider, how did the ship leave the piers of the Freeport of Monrovia?
Well, first of all, point of correction: the boat departed. It departed from the Magibie port, and it was on its way to Maryland.
Magibie port. Magibie. Yes. Do we have a port in Magibie?
It said, according to what I read, it came from Magibie, and between Magibie and Buchanan, they began to receive water.
Yeah, but we don't have a port. We don't have a port in Magibie.
But from what I'm hearing, it did not come from the Freeport of Monrovia. It didn't come from the Freeport of Monrovia.
The Maritime Training Institute in Magibie. Maybe that's where they had it, and that's
because they were the one that arrested the board, and they were the yes. Okay. So the investigation.
Okay, but the question is, how did they leave from there?
This is what we are saying. This is the $1 million question that we are asking. Like I just made the analogy with the Indian coming into the country and actually going through immigration with ease. These are things that are systemic. and we have to deal with them. In fact, Dr. Lumumba made the case, and he went all the way back to 1906. He said 1906, 1929, 1939, 1949, 1956, 1970, 1979. He says we have been singing these same songs for over 100 years. So that means we know that the problem exists. Like you said, nobody has come up with the willpower. It's always politics that when I get there, I'm going to do it. I'm the better man to do it. But if we have been singing this song since 1906, as recently as 1906, that's over 100 years ago, why are we still singing the same song? And to your issues about George Weah's wife being on the payroll, no, George Weah's wife is not on the payroll. George Weah's wife
I didn't say that. I didn't say she on the payroll. I said she had a budget.
Right. The first lady has always been in the budget. The difference between the first lady of Liberia and the first lady of Ghana, she is not in the budget as an organization. She's actually an employee of the state that has the full package of benefits like any other employee, which is wrong. But anyway, let's get back to our Liberia. We are very good at finding out what the issues are, what the problems are. Mr. Tule, what is it that we need to do? Because some of the countries that we have flagged, and we say these countries are model that we should look at. Everybody used to say, let's look at Ghana, let's look at Sierra Leone, or let's look at Malawi, or let's look at Kigali, let's look at you. I mean, we talk about the whole 9 yards here. And every time that we praise the white chickie, something happens. Yeah, so what is it that we need to do? We're being free here. It catches my heart.
Yeah, but the reality here is this, right? Ghana has admirable peculiarities that we can look into and look at and want to emulate. The excess is Kufuor is not a poor man. Let me just say this to you. Kufuor was many times over a millionaire before becoming president of Ghana. So, you know, Aliyu putting his wife on the payroll, I think that's just a disservice to him. I know maybe he went to bed and he knocked his head and he woke up and he became stupid and he decided to do something to put his name in the mouths of the Ghanaian people, because there is no need. I've seen Kufuor's yard. I've seen the amount of Rolls Royce that he has. Before he became president, this guy was wealthy. So there's no need for his wife to be taking any money from Ghana whatsoever. Look, let me say this to you. I've said this to you time and again. The only way we will move the developmental needle in Liberia, we have to go back to the basics. I've always said this. The Holy Bible says, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Many of the things that we grapple with in Liberia are foundational issues. And for us to move our developmental matrices to the distance of coming into the maybe the top 25 of African nations, just top 25, we have to we need leadership that understands how things work. It is very, very important that understand how things work. Piero made a comment today. You know, I was listening very keenly. He mentioned agriculture, and he said agriculture that is not based on the rainy season means Liberia. Like for instance, in our own context, we need to go into agriculture, but we need to make sure that we apply irrigational methods to agriculture so that we can have year-round supply of the same kind of crops. Because some crops are 3 months, right? Then you harvest. But because we are so dependent on the rainy season, when the rains are gone, then we don't plant those kind of crops anymore. We wait until the rain comes again. Whereas, for instance, this is a good thing. Now, yeah, we're having this discussion. Rice production. In many nations across Southeast Asia, they don't use highland rice anymore. Most of the rice production are lowland rice because they have a lot of water. We have the same. We have a lot of swamps across Liberia. If you drive on the highways, you see swamps. Anywhere you go, you see major swamps. We can use these things to have production year-round. Like if you go to the river GN, you see major swamps. Okay, those places can be converted into rice production. Why am I saying this? You ask a question. The only way we can change Liberia We need leadership that knows how things work, that's able to make the sacrifice, that's able to provide leadership and say, my people, let's go. This is where I'm going. I need us to go. Until we get that, we'll just be talking. Let me tell you something. I say this every time. If we had a leader who didn't want, who was afraid of, who was fed up with all the legislative malfeasance and stealing in the name of budgetary appropriation of $30,000 for each of them. And you had a leader who did not want to partake of that. He didn't care about all these things. Who wanted to go by the books? Trust me, the legislature will wake up. They'll realize that this guy, the president, is not really willing to bend anything. He wants to go by the book. He wants everything to be done the right way, and he's not offering them any perks. He's not offering them any bribes. Okay, he's only intending on getting his legislative agenda across that is actually based on the rule of law. And if you have that, you have somebody who knows how things work. If he takes a bill and they want bribes, he will come back to Liberian people and say, look, I want this thing to be passed, and they are refusing. They are the people you elected. They are refusing to implement these things because they want me to bribe them, and I'm refusing, and that's why they're holding up to it. You're going to hold them responsible. Things will change, Ali. But when you have a president who will say, okay, you know what, I want to do a supplemental budget, but because I want to pass the budget, I want to give some money to my wife, and I want to take some money for myself, and I want this money available. And since you know that quid pro quo now, if you wanted to, so I got to give you some money to put $30,000 per person. Or that $30,000, even if you spend 10, when they make noise, you still got $20,000 in your pocket. That's how they think. And we allow it to happen because our people, they have low expectation. Our people have low expectation. Their expectation is still existential. Bag of rice, food, rent. That's where our people are mentally. So as a result, they are not able to put any pressure on the system because they are still rudimentary and they are still basic and they are still existential in their mentality. So until then, we don't see how our nation is lagging far behind. No, will we keep electing thieves until we can change it? And it comes from the top down. If we have a leader or president, Mr. Gilman, who is a visionary, who is an ideologue, who knows how things work, Liberia will change. The question is who?
Mr. Kamara, one of the
Yes,
things that Dr. PLO and I discussed, and I think he may have mentioned it, is that here we are in African politics. The politicians are so good at having the populace rally around an individual or around a party, then rally around a national cause. What is your take on that particular ideology or that particular vision or particular critique of our African politics?
You see, Dr. Lumumba, like you and myself, like Tule, Dr. Lumumba is an African, born, raised, went to school in Africa, primary, secondary, and thereabout, just like everybody on here. So Dr. Lumumba know the issue, from the root. So he actually, like I said to you, I know you are impressed with the doctor, but then again, the doctor told you nothing that you really don't already know. Liberia's problem is just Africa's problem. And Tule just made it clear. Unless you have the person who has the passion and the will, the political will and the willingness to let everything else aside and focus on the actual issues, we're going nowhere. Tule did mention that the Liberian people, their expectations are low, of course. I mean, you can't fight for something you've never seen. You can't fight for something you don't know. If you don't know about Camo, you'll fight over bucket because you don't know about them. So you don't expect them to have high expectation when those who are supposed to help widen the horizon have kept them under the table deliberately so that they do not get the kind of exposure that will make them stand up for their right. And this is where I come in with my frustration of Mr. Gilman. Mr. Gilman, I was a founding, not one of those popular people, but one of those people who actually play a part in the establishment of the CDC. We used to go to CDC headquarters when it was first arranged for from the Bernards. over there in Congo Town, over Junction interception there. And we were going there when there were just very few people. Gu used to be there, Vafle, Dollar, and all of those people. Some of us had to get frustrated and just stay away from that particular party. That party came as a hope to the Liberian people, not just Liberians in Liberia, but Liberians in the diaspora as well. They believed that these guys were true revolutionaries. And one of the reasons why some of us became a part was because we have revolutionary intentions. You have to change the status quo. You have, if your old ways wasn't working, then it's time for us to change into a new phenomenon. All of us certain, these very guys take office, they take power, sleeping with every woman they can sleep with. President himself involved with just snatching people's wives and breaking their marriages. Nobody really is serious. You bring a man who highest position in government has been assistant minister at internal affairs and made him minister of state for presidential affairs. What do you expect from that? You take a boy from Busse Quarter who has no clue as to what the word switch means and make him a Moraga City Corporation head. He has absolutely no clue. He doesn't know where to start from. Okay, it is okay to bring young people in government where you keep the old mat and then sit on an old mat and then plot a new one. What George did, yes.
Aliu, can I interrupt you 1 minute before I lose this thought?
Sure.
I think yesterday I was driving. I live in a small city, right? 130,000 people. A small function. One it has when I say function, right? Aliu, I drive around. They're changing almost all their roads. All the bad roads are going right now, and they will do it in 3 years again because
for us,
let me make the point before you come in. You were coming. There was something that came to my mind, Aliu. The last time I was called in my house, I answered the phone. They said, "Oh, we're about to have a city council meeting, but we're giving you this number so that you can call in. We're doing the budget of the city council." So that you can call in and then you'll be able to listen in onto the in the meeting and then make suggestions. And you know the reason why I interrupted you? No. Monrovia City Council. We do not know what the revenue is. They collect money from all the businesses. Hold on now, brother. They're giving it back to you. You mentioned Koji. That's why it came to my mind. Monrovia City Council. Since I grew up in Monrovia, not once I have heard that the Monrovia City Council broadcasted, and this is not, and Mr. Gaiman, when we talk these things, it ain't got nothing to do with just Koji. I've been small till now. I've never heard the Monrovia City Council publish their annual intake in terms of the revenue they generate and what they take care of with that money. I've never heard it before. So this is something we don't know how much they collect. They're collecting parking fees. They're collecting money from businesses. They go around collecting money from all the businesses. We don't know, brother, what to do with that money. So I'm bringing it back to you now, just to talk about what you were talking about. This is not just CDC's problem. Aliu, let me just say this to you. Most of the problems we have, they are not CDC problems. My disappointment with CDC is these guys fought with us against Ellen, only to come into power to do worse than Madam Salif and her people did.
And that's all of us frustration. That's exactly what I was speaking on. But I said,
go ahead, finish your thoughts.
We thought they had revolutionary intent, and we thought CDC was a revolution. We did not think that other people were coming to pay their day. Oh, the other people did it 12 years ago. What about us? When you say this, you say, why now? You know, we were in this vanguard movement to turn things around. Why would you refuse to turn things around and then say, what about them? They did it while we can't do it. So, Mr. Gilman, I'm really frustrated. You know, I want to stick within the confines of the questions that you ask. And that is the problem. Dr. Lumumba will always say things that you're already familiar with. The problem is not the issue. He has admitted that on the show. I watched the show. He said, we know the problem. That is not the issue. The issue is who is capable of solving the problem. the man just says, Tule just said, why are lawmakers in a country where the GDP, I mean, the income per capita for an average working Liberian is only $1,200 a year? $1,200. Why should somebody making $1,200 for a whole year and then another man make over $100,000 per year? I mean, how is that fair? Why should a revolution movement allow such a thing? And then they come up with some booger nonsense called harmonization. They go and harmonize somebody making $300 down to $150 and say they did a good job, but pay another person $100,000+. What are we doing? How can we speak truth to power here?
Well, and I understand your frustration, but I think I want to, for the first time, I'm going to agree with Tule here that what we are looking at here.
For the first time, you sure?
Well, yeah, for the first time, because you have been wrong so much time. I can't even.
Come on, wrong on what?
But to the context of this here, we are now speaking as nationalists, people that love their country. And I think when I had my former professor Michael Dukakis, Governor Dukakis, I asked him, I said, what makes the American Constitution and the system so worthy, so effective? Then he said, Jerome, he said, you're from Liberia, you're from Africa. He said, from my own political analysis, South Africa has the best constitution in the entire world. It addressed everything, every ill in society. That constitution is as great or greater than the United States Constitution. He said, but we have one major difference with the rest of the world. He said, we have an orientation and an educated populace that understands and respects what is written on that piece of paper. So you can have the best constitution, the best laws in the world. If you don't have an educated populace to understand and implement that, you are wasting your time. So when you look at Liberia Constitution, as sophisticated as it sounds and looks, and you look at our literacy rate, and we are just being honest here. I'm not being a pessimist. I'm being a realist here. When we have a literacy rate of 20%, people who can actually read, we have 80% of our population that cannot read or write. The reason I'm saying that, somebody will come and tell you, oh, Liberia literacy rate is 60%. They are talking about who can read. But when we are talking about those who can actually read and understand, you are talking about barely 20%.
Yeah, but you keep digging who under your government. Your government
this is not a problem that can be solved in 3 years because George President, we have been there 3 years. For us to actually go back and address these issues, I think we should use the Martin Luther format, which is massive, mandatory public education across the board. We cannot have a society, and we discussed this before, and there is no argument on this, a country that is divided in the middle. We have a section of our country that does not believe in constitutional law because the Constitution gave the tribal people their own rights and their own court system. So we have, if Kamara went to the Deep Baza or Nimba and got attacked there, and you lose your arm, and the devil come outside, our professional police, constitutional officer cannot go there because we have a demarcation here. The traditional judges, the traditional folks will take care of that. In the meantime, when you come on the coastal line, 40 miles, you go to Buchanan, Monserrado, Cape Mount, Cape Palmas, Sino, Greenville, those areas, you will have a court system. If you go deeper into Nima County, you are on your own. How do we develop? Because some of these societies, these subcultures, do not believe in what you and I believe in, that our girls should be educated, fully educated as the boys. They should have access to opportunity like the boys. So we have this. So we have these fundamental issues. Those who are in Monrovia, I'm from Buchanan, who are in Buchanan, and only within the city of Buchanan, we believe that we are it. You go 40 miles deep into Bassa. They had something we call the Gravel Bush, with the Descendant Society and all of that. And these girls and boys don't go to school. There are times when it's time for schooling, and this devil time comes, they take the kids out of school and take them into these bushes for months, and they are losing out on the consequences.
Let me interject for a second. Let me respond to something quick from Mr. Gilman here. Mr. Gilman,
Yes.
let me make something clear to you and to the audience and to everyone. Regardless of how sophisticated any one of us have become, our customary practices or our traditional heritage will never be taken away. Now, let me just tell you this. Zimbabwe, that has almost 98%, 99% literacy rate. Almost everybody in Zimbabwe can read and write. They have their customary practices. Those things have absolutely no hindrance. Remember, the Constitution is the supreme law. The supreme law of Liberia. The supreme law of Liberia overbounds any other constitution in Liberia.
Let me push back on that. That's not true. Let me push back on it, because my own friend, the late Bromsky, when they were talking about the revision of the Constitution and the issues of Liberia, he made this clear. He said Liberia will never progress. We will not move until we have a unitary form of justice. As long as we have the division among us, you cannot unite us when people in Bassa or Lofa, Pastor Lofa, do not understand our
But that's happening everywhere, Mr. Gilman. Here in America, it happens.
Let us not talk about everywhere else. We are talking about what affected us, because if it were working in our society, we will have our literacy rate is going to be high. Bassa, for me, I like to do local government. Okay, you go to Bassa and you leave Buchanan, you find out that our education system is non-existent, and it's everywhere. So we have to deal with this issue. This particular issue about duality in Liberia is a serious issue, and we have to. Everybody think that by saying that we should uniform, that means we're losing our culture. That's not true. Go ahead, Tule.
Yeah, but for me, it's not just about culture. You see, Mr. Gilman, let's go back again. When you ask us in the origin, the beginning rather, what are the things on our minds? And we all spoke with different things. Let's go back again and look at what Liu said something. He said he talked about the ship or the boat that got missing. And the Coast Guard can't do anything about it because they don't have capacity.
That's correct.
If you look across, it's like, Mr. Gilman, one of the things that I want to stress here is this, the issue of prioritizing what is paramount. Where, you see, the things you put you spend your money behind dictates your value system. It betrays who you are. In Liberia, when you see government officials buying big cars and hospitals are without generators and the implements doctors and nurses need to treat patients, like in the case of COVID, all right, George Weah took a group of people to France for a non-essential conference. The conference that had no direct bearing on our developmental.
Let me push back. No. That is not true. That is not true at all. Let's be realistic, and that's not true.
Our current situation. I'll give you a common example. When George Weah went to France, the most pressing need in Liberia wasn't the protection of the rights of women and girls. The most pressing need in Liberia when George Weah went to France was that people were dying from COVID and respiratory distress in Liberia. And many places they were putting oxygen masks on people with failing respiratory systems who needed ventilators to breathe for them, and not oxygen masks, because oxygen masks cannot breathe for you. It helps you to breathe. When your system collapses due to COVID, you need an implement that will breathe for you. That is why you need a ventilator. If many of the people who have died in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks in Liberia have had ventilators, some of them will be alive today. So when George Weah went to France, Mr. Gaiman, the most pressing need in Liberia at that time were ventilators. But he was able to charter an entire flight, pay hotel, food, everything, and take a crew of useless people who have no bearing on the conference in France and take them to France. When the $300,000, $400,000 spent could have been used to at least procure some ventilators, you could have gone to Korea, you could have gone to Japan, you could have asked the United States, you could have asked Russia, you could have asked India. Not India now. India got their own issues to be bothered with. But nations that had COVID, like America has so many ventilators that they procure and use that are sitting right now collecting dust. You could have appealed to the Americans for assistance and say, no, I will pay the freight. I'll pay for the transportation of these things to my country because it's an urgency right now. And maybe also, again, because we don't have the respiratory technicians in Liberia who will use the ventilators, you say, okay, I will pay for the doctors and I'll pay for at least 2 respiratory technologists and 2 doctors to come to help my people. That's what we talk about, foresight, understanding how things work.
Mr. Tule, that this is where you and I will clash, because it tells me that you have not delved into public policy, you have not delved into leadership, you have not delved into the presidency.
You are assuming.
When you are talking about
assuming. You are assuming.
No, based on what you were saying.
Disagree with me. When
the president travels, you assume that those that he took along with him are non-essential.
He should have even gone there. My point is, he should have gone there in the first place.
He's supposed to.
Why?
Listen to this. When the president is invited, when the president is invited, the president's trip was twofold. He was invited by the president of France. The president had made an appeal. Okay, and you and I know, if you have been on these conferences and these workshops, face to face, when a leader of another nation face to face, you do more than you can than when you get on the phone. When I'm traveling to do my budget here, and I'm just a small man, listen to this. I'm just a small guy when I'm going to do my budget. When I'm traveling, I travel with my office manager, I travel with my bookkeeper, I travel with my accountant, I travel with my auditor, okay? And I'm just a regular guy. These are people that will understand exactly when someone who is giving me money or giving our organization money wants to know, what was your audit stand in the past 10 years? I look over to my auditor, he answers. When they ask me about my office manager and the obstacles,
you're mixing.
Can I come in for a second?
Listen to this. Multiply that 1,000 times when you run a government, when you are going to talk about agriculture, you are going to talk about medicine, you are going to talk about security.
In the midst,
listen to this. Listen to the fact. On that agenda, number one on that agenda with the French government was the issue in Mali, the coup in Mali. The president took his chief of staff and the military with him because they were actually planning the response and the security issue in Mali. So
Let me come in for a second.
Ali, before you come in, let me just tell Mr. Gaiman this. Mr. Gaiman, the fact is, all of that could have been held virtually. The entire meeting.
That's not true.
Hold on. The first thing you talk about, you said that he went to go talk about the crisis in Mali. Is that Francophone? The Francophone nations and other nations there are other bigger nations that
come on now, you know better. Man, hold on, let me ECOWAS issue and you talk about Francophone, man. Come on.
Okay, ECOWAS, we agree. But this is where I'm going. In the midst of a national crisis, when your people are dropping left, right, center, you could have said, hey, thank you for the meeting. I will come and see you later. But there are things that are home right now. Hold on.
Americans were dying in the thousands when Biden went to the G7.
Hold on, Mr. Gaiman. You will come in. Any leader who has a heart for his people.
So Biden didn't have heart for America when he went to the G8 meeting?
But Biden had already resolved his issue.
Oh, come
Biden
on.
already put in place.
We still got COVID here.
No, Mr. Gilman, people will not understand us. Mr. Gilman, if we talk across, people will not understand us. Don't compare, please.
No, we have to compare.
No. Hold on, Mr. Gilman. Let me make my statement. We cannot compare Biden because before Biden even became president, Biden convened a panel of experts to look into the COVID issue. When Biden hit the ground, he hit the ground running with executive orders. He hit the ground running with decisions that his goal was, and he had press conferences. Aliyu, how many press conferences Biden did not have? And say, by a certain time, I want to be able to vaccinate a certain amount of people, and we want to be able to check COVID. And every time they made an adjustment, Biden came back. Okay? Every time they made an adjustment, Biden came back to have this conversation with the people and say, hey, this is where we are and this is where things are. Have your president, your man you support. That's what I said. In the midst of everything, in the midst of people dying and dropping off, and there's so much confusion, people saying, oh, the tests, they're not working, the medicine not working, and this and this. This is the time that you show national leadership. This is the time you go to the National Assembly and say, look, it is paramount that we have ventilators in Liberia. We do not have ventilators to treat this thing. What can we do? How can we make appropriations? That 300,000, that 1.5 million that is remaining, I'm not giving it to you. I'm going to use that money and we will add money to it. You'll make extra appropriation based on your fiduciary responsibility constitutionally to make these provisions so that we can have $5 million right away to look into our health crisis. We did not have
Mr. Kamara.
You come in. You do not defend this.
Nobody defending Liberia. You, the opposition, few months ago, you were calling George Weah a dictator for doing and going around the legislature body of the country. You, Mr. Tule, and the CP, before I come in, Mr. Kamara, go ahead. I know you want to jump in here.
Yeah. First of all, I still want to push back on your statement. I think you owe an apology to the people of Liberia, first of all, for trying to suggest that our customs be discarded. I mean, we should discard our custom. I think you owe an apology to your audience, first of all, for that. Let me say this. Tule brought some very salient things that we can do a little bit of comparison on here. You think our problem is our customary practices, or we have other laws that are competing with the Constitution? What did our customary practices, how did it impact the decision to pay one lawmaker $10,000 to $15,000?
10,000 to be frank.
Yes. Not 30,000, 50,000.
How did
you remember the getting 20,000 to say for extra loan prior to the 30,000, so a total of 50,000.
Okay. Thanks for helping me out. How does that apply to our customary practices? How does our customary practices affect those who actually commit rape and they go to jail, but because the judge knows the family of those people, he or she releases them? How does our customary practices affect the fact that Judge Leah will buy a private airplane at a time that his country needs him the most? What does that have to do with it? How does the custom of our country affect the decision of the Ministry of Education not to put chairs in community schools and other things? How does all of these things, these guys that are buying a Mercedes-Benz, Maritime Commissioner buying $69,000 Jeep, what does that have to do with our custom and tradition? How can you put these two together, Mr. Gilman? What I'm trying to say go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, what I am trying to say here, the bigger issue, there's a much bigger issue to our country, and that is leadership. If you go to our communities where customs customary practices are the order of the day, there is civility, there is peace, there is harmony. The people live in close proximity and they respect the elders. Everybody knows their role. In any part of Liberia or Africa where custom is the rule of law, you find peace in those places for the most part. You check it out. If you go before the Civil War, Riverside City, the way Riverside City was peaceful because back then they didn't even have police. Now that they have police headquarters, you have police command in Riverside City. There are more crimes now in Riverside City than there were when there were no police officers.
Well, Mr.
So
Kamara,
yes.
Mr. Kamara, not to cut you off, but there's for those of us who are sociologists, we do something they call social change. Social change is something that is constant. When you and I grew up in Bassa in the 70s, became of age 1980. So I became of age in the late 70s and 80s. When I was growing up in Bassa, the total population was like 17,000. I went to Bassa in February. Now they say 57,000. So along with that comes those social issues. Now you are talking about how our traditional practices hinder total population like 17,000. Okay, somebody's phone is on. Okay, now you are saying how did that affect our food? You remember that recently that a lawmaker for Grand Julia raped a young adolescent.
That's isolated, man.
No, listen. No, listen. When the child got pregnant, what did he do? He took the child into deep ground jail. When the government went, they couldn't because they were beyond their territorial rights. And
Mr. Gilman, let me push back on that just a little bit. Where is the representative? 1 minute. Where is the representative now? The representative in question, where is he? Is he in Monrovia at the Capitol building? Why are they not expelling him from the Capitol building? Why is the Temple of Justice not going after him? Why is the police the police office not going after him? Why? What does custom have to do with that?
First of all, there has to be a charge that is brought against the perpetrator of crimes. The parents, as usual, decided that they were going to do it the customary way, took the child and all evidence into the
It has nothing to do with the law.
Yes, it does.
It has nothing to do with the law.
We cannot arrest, we cannot make arrest, we cannot collect evidence because it's within
Mr. Gilman, I disagree with you. I disagree with you 100%.
Okay, you and I know this, that this is an issue in our problem. There are those of us, there are men and women who are raping children now beyond the law of the land because that's what it is. So we know this, but anyway, we have gone beyond our time here. We got about 5 minutes here, Mr. Tulip, because of our arrangement today. I know we have a lot of messages. We have a lot of things that we needed to read, but because of our constraint, we can't read those comments. So we got 10 minutes here. Let's go around the table and I can do a closing because I really want us to read those comments.
Why the rush? Why can't we have at least 15 more minutes?
Oh, we could. Do we have the ability to read our comments?
Oh, then he's saying that his battery's dying because he's out. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do our closing.
Yeah, okay, but Mr. Gaiman, the thing you see, Mr. Gaiman, I told you, I say you present to me a conundrum. you espouse and agree with the views of Pierre Lumumba, and yet within the same breath you support George Weah. That for me is a hyper conundrum. That for me is one of the most confusing things that I can ever identify with. Sometimes I will hold my head. My wife will ask me, what's happening? I say, it's Mr. Gilman. I cannot just understand this guy. I don't understand how a man will espouse, will agree with. Hold on.
We got 3 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Hold on. I say, I don't understand how this guy will support PLO and then support George Weah in the same breath. The thing about George Weah, it's not about hate or CDC or whatever. It's the fact of the matter is the guy lacks the capacity. He lacks the capacity. He's not an ideologue. The man did not establish, he did not articulate any ideology for leadership. He did not establish any plans, what he's going to do in Liberia. He has not done it when he have crisis.
Okay, Mr. Tule, we got 1 minute. We got 1 minute.
Yeah, listen now. When we have crisis, the man flees the country. He does not address the people to allay their fears. He does not address the people to speak and to be able to come in and say how I can resolve the problem. And yet you still support this man, and you will make a caricature of yourself in trying to defend his policies or his lack of policies. This is what is on my mind right now. That I'm tired of you supporting bad leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. Let's do the real quick. We got 1 minute left here before our battery died out.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Come back next Sunday on point. I like you, so we can beat up on you a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for bringing me on. Great show. I enjoy whoever was involved in bringing Dr. PLO Lumumba on the show today did a great job, and I think a lot of Liberian people are talking about the show. Focus on Africa is a heavyweight. It might not be the most popular show, but it is a heavyweight. I can tell you for sure, this is one of the very few places where I can actually come, watch, and gain knowledge. Liberia is Africa. Our heritage, our custom, our tradition must remain intact because that is our Africanism. No level of neo-colonialism will change that. I also want to remind Liberians that depending on donations, a lot of you say you're a Christian, the Bible says, blessed is the hand that giveth, than the one that taketh. If you spend all of your time taking, whoever is giving you is taking away your blessing. You should try to put yourself together and begin to earn for yourself. Mr. Gilmer, I want to thank you so much, but I also want you to be a little more objective as you support the CDC because it's becoming like a complete fanatic of the CDC. The reality is the government of CDC failed the people, lied to the people, misled the people. It is not the kind of revolutionary group that it portrayed itself to be in the initial stage, and therefore we must tell them the facts. Again, thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to coming back on here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies.
4 o'clock on Monday.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the show. Thank you for watching. We are blessed to have educated minds, people who have different ideas, people who do not agree on everything, but one thing that we have in common. This is a few years from now, or a few years back, 10, 20 years, you could not find 3 folks with different ideas in one room that accommodate each other, that love each other. We have one thing in common, which is Liberia. Everybody wants to make Liberia better. And this is where we are. Mr. Tule loves Liberia, even though he loves his own crooks. My own brother, Leo Kamara here, he's a sedition in the cover. We know that he's in the closet. We keep out today, and we love that. We want you to come back home. But in all this, we are saying one thing that we all should do, and Dr. Lumumba said it. No matter how much we love our leaders, we have to light our fire under their bottom, he said. We need to do this so our folks do not fall back into complacency. So what you are doing here, Mr. Kamara, and what Mr. Tule is doing is actually helping the CDC and George Weah that we are not all singing as a symphony. People are saying different things and they are listening. We need to light our fire, but so far he is the best president alive.
Now you see, you finish cutting the fire off.
And God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, see you next Sunday.
You cut the fire off.
Thank you.
You cut the fire off.
Thank you. We return next Sunday at 4 o'clock on point. Mr. Tule,
the fire off.
Mr. Tule,
I will let it. I will put the fire. I will let the fire on Sunday. I promise you.
And we are all see you next Sunday, same time, same place. God bless.
God bless.
Okay.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Liberia.